Drive safe. Secure your load. In this training, we'll look at why load securement matters, what can happen when a load isn't secured properly, and the basic steps that help prevent injuries, crashes, damage, and violations. Load securement matters because the consequences are real and often severe. Each year, more than 730 people are killed and over 17,000 injuries occur in incidents involving unsecured loads. When cargo is not properly secured, it can put both drivers and pedestrians at serious risk. That's why this presentation is so important. It will help you understand how proper load securement protects people, prevents incidents, and supports safer operations every day.
This image shows the result of a real securement failure. The pipes broke loose from an unsecured load, drove forward, and penetrated the truck cab. It's a stark reminder that when cargo isn't properly restrained, a routine trip can turn life-threatening for the driver and for society as a whole in seconds.
In a situation like this, lumber or other debris can fall from the truck and hit the vehicles behind it. That impact can shatter a windshield and seriously injure a driver or passenger. The image makes the risk clear. Loose material on the road puts everyone around the truck in danger. This visual shows what can happen when a load shifts in transit. As the cargo moves, it can throw off the trailer's balance, reduce vehicle control, and make steering or braking much harder. That loss of stability greatly increases the risk of a rollover or crash. Here you can see the difference side by side. On the left, the flatbed has loose, uneven straps, which allows the load to move. On the right, the cargo is properly secured with tight, evenly spaced tie-downs. That's what helps keep the load stable during braking, turns, and constant road vibration. Here's a difference. On the left, an uncovered dump truck can lose debris onto the road. On the right, a properly tarped and secured load keeps material contained and everyone safer. When load securement fails, it usually comes back to a few common problems. Sometimes there just aren't enough tie-downs. In other cases, the load isn't distributed properly, the equipment fails, or the driver doesn't stop to recheck the load after getting back on the road. Load securement laws apply in all 50 states and Washington, D.C., and they require every load to be secured so it can't fall, shift, or leak. If it isn't properly secured, fines can reach up to $5,000. And at the end of the day, drivers are responsible for making sure the vehicle is operating safely. Under 49 CFR 393, your cargo has to stay secure the entire trip. In other words, it can't shift, fall, roll, or leak while you're on the road. That's the standard you need to keep in mind every time you inspect and secure a load. When a driver brakes hard, the load doesn't just stop with the truck. It keeps pushing forward with great force. In practical terms, that means a 40,000-pound load can surge forward with as much as 32,000 pounds of force. And it's not just forward movement you need to think about. Cargo can also shift side to side during a turn or swerve, and rearward during acceleration. That's why securement has to be strong enough to control the load in every direction, not just one. Working load limit, or WLL, refers to the maximum weight that a tie-down such as a strap, chain, or binder is rated to safely handle during normal use. FMCSA regulations require that the combined WLL of all tie-downs used be at least 50% of the cargo's total weight. This ensures that the securement system can withstand the forces generated during braking, turning, or sudden maneuvers. For example, if a load weighs 20,000 pounds, the total WLL of all tie-downs must equal at least 10,000 pounds. Using properly rated and sufficient tie-downs is critical to preventing load shift or loss during transport. Tie-down rules are designed to ensure that cargo is properly secured based on its length and weight distribution. According to FMCSA guidelines, shorter loads require fewer tie-downs, but as the length of the cargo increases, additional securement is necessary to prevent shifting or movement during transport. Specifically, cargo 5 feet or less requires at least 1 tie-down, while cargo up to 10 feet requires a minimum of 2 tie-downs. For loads longer than 10 feet, an additional tie-down must be added for every extra 10 feet of length. These rules help distribute securement forces evenly across the load, reducing the risk of cargo shifting, falling, or becoming unstable while the vehicle is in motion. When you're securing cargo, use rope, netting, or rated straps that can handle the load. Tie down larger items directly. Cover everything with a tarp or netting when needed, avoid overloading, and always give your load one final check before you drive off. This before example shows lumber that's loose, uneven, or not secured well enough. That's dangerous because the load can shift when the driver brakes, leans into a turn, or has to make a sudden lane change. Once that wood starts moving, it can slide, bounce, or spill off the trailer, which raises the risk of falling material and can even make the vehicle harder to control. This after example shows what proper lumber securement should look like. Tight, evenly spaced tie-downs help keep the wood from sliding, bouncing, or shifting while the truck is in transit. When the load is secured firmly and consistently across the trailer, it stays more stable on the road and helps the driver meet cargo securement requirements. When you're securing steel or other heavy loads, chains are often the right choice because they provide the strength and durability needed to restrain dense cargo. Just as important are blocking and bracing, which help keep the load from rolling, sliding, or shifting on the deck. That matters every time the vehicle brakes, turns, or makes a sudden maneuver, because even a small movement can quickly become a serious hazard. Proper securement keeps the load stable, protects the driver and the public, and helps ensure the cargo arrives safely. Steel coils are especially dangerous because once they shift, they can roll with tremendous force. That's why a proper cradle matters. It helps keep the coil seated and reduces the chance of movement. The load also has to be secured in both directions, so it can't move forward, backward, or start rolling during transit. In many setups, that means using at least 4 chains, although the exact number depends on the load and securement method. Here, you're looking at a proper top-view flatbed securement setup. Notice how the load is centered and balanced on the trailer with tie-downs spaced evenly across the cargo. You also want securement where it's needed at the front, through the middle, and at the rear, so the load is controlled from every direction. When the weight is balanced and the tie-downs are placed correctly, the cargo is much less likely to shift during braking, turns, or bumps in the road. Now compare that to an improper top-view securement setup. In this example, the tie-downs are unevenly spaced, some securement points are missing, and the load placement leaves room for movement. Gaps like these make the cargo unstable because the force isn't being controlled evenly across the load. That increases the risk of the cargo shifting, rolling, or even falling during hard braking, cornering, or rough road conditions. This diagram shows proper securement for pipe from a top view. Because pipe can roll so easily, the first goal is to keep it seated with proper blocking or cradling so it stays contained. From there, the securement needs to hold the load in place so it can't move forward, backward, or sideways. When the pipe is both supported and tied down correctly, you reduce the chance of rolling and keep the load stable throughout the trip. Tie-down angle matters because it changes how well the securement controls the load. When the angle is positioned properly, the tie-down helps resist movement and keeps the cargo stable from side to side and front to back. But if the angle is too shallow or poorly positioned, the tie-down loses effectiveness and gives the load more opportunity to shift. That's why good securement isn't just about adding tie-downs. It's also about using the right angles for the job. In this image, you can see what equipment failure looks like up close. It might be a frayed ratchet strap, a damaged tie-down, or a broken chain. Any of those are serious warning signs. Even if the load was stacked and secured correctly at the start, worn or damaged equipment can fail once the truck is moving. When a strap snaps, a chain breaks, or an anchor point gives way, the cargo can shift, fall, or break loose. That's why inspecting your securement equipment before every trip is just as important as loading the cargo properly. Before you hit the road, take the time to check every strap and anchor point. Then do your first recheck within the first 50 miles. After that, inspect the load again at least every 150 miles or every 3 hours. Those checks matter because securement can change once you're moving. Vibration, braking, weather, and rough road conditions can all shift the load and loosen straps over time. A load that looks solid at the start of the trip may not stay that way unless you keep checking it. At the end of the day, load securement is a personal responsibility. Before you drive, pause and ask yourself a few honest questions. Could anything fall out? Is the load secured on all sides? What happens if you have to brake suddenly? Would you feel safe driving behind your own vehicle? Would you want that load traveling on the roads in your own neighborhood? And if something failed, could you live with the consequences? That moment of reflection can help you catch a problem before it turns into an injury, a crash, or a life-changing mistake. As you head back on the road, remember that safe load securement starts with you. Every trip is a chance to protect yourself, protect others, and make sure your cargo arrives exactly as it should. As we close, remember this load securement training was provided by Aegis Risk Engineering as part of our broader safety education program, designed to support safer decisions on the road, in the yard, and on every job. This material is provided for instructional and informational purposes only. It is meant to reinforce safe practices and support training, not replace your company's policies, official regulatory guidance, or legal advice. Every organization remains responsible for following the laws, regulations, and internal requirements that apply to its operations, equipment, drivers, and cargo. At Aegis Risk Engineering, our mission is to build a stronger safety culture and improve operational performance with practical, experience-based guidance that makes safety part of the everyday job. At Aegis Risk Engineering, we help support safer communities and help our clients become best in class by turning strong standards into consistent action across the organization. At Aegis Risk Engineering, we're proud to partner with clients through practical solutions, meaningful data, and a shared commitment to building safer operations every day. On behalf of Aegis Risk Engineering, thank you for your time and attention and for the work you do to keep people, loads, and roads safer. Take the time to inspect your equipment, secure every load correctly, and never assume it's good enough. A properly secured load is a core part of being a safe, responsible driver.